Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm Lisa, your host, and today we have an exciting topic that can truly transform the way you approach learning English. Have you ever wondered how some people seem to speak English effortlessly, as if it's second nature? Well, here's a secret. They've trained their brains to think in English. And guess what? You can do it too.
Hi, everyone, and I'm Tommy, your co-host, and I'm thrilled to dive into this topic with all of you today. Thinking in English is a game changer because it helps you stop translating from your native language. That means you'll respond faster, make fewer mistakes, and sound more natural when you speak. Whether you're a beginner or an advanced learner, we've got tips to help you start thinking in English right away.
That's right, Tommy. So if you've been struggling with fluency or feeling stuck when trying to form sentences, this episode is for you. Stick around because by the end of this podcast, you'll know exactly how to train your brain to think in English and take your language skills to the next level. And don't forget, if you're enjoying these episodes, make sure to subscribe and share this podcast with your friends. It really helps us reach more English learners like you.
All right, now that we've introduced the topic, let's talk about why thinking in English is so important for language learners. When you rely on translating from your native language, it slows you down. You're not just forming a sentence, you're doing double the work, thinking in one language, translating it, and then saying it. That process can make you feel stuck or unsure.
Exactly, Tommy. When you train your brain to think directly in English, you skip the translation step altogether. This not only makes you faster at speaking, but also helps you use phrases and expressions that sound more natural in English. For example, idioms and casual expressions don't always translate well into other languages.
Right, and it's not just about speed or fluency. Thinking in English helps you understand the language better. You start noticing patterns, sentence structures, and how words are used together. Things that are hard to see if you're always translating. Another big reason is confidence. When you think in English, you're actively practicing the language in your mind. This builds familiarity, so when it's time to speak, the words come to you more naturally. It reduces that fear of making mistakes because you're already used to forming thoughts in English.
Great point, Tommy. I'd also add that thinking in English helps with listening comprehension. When your brain is tuned to English, you'll understand what others are saying more quickly because you're not mentally converting everything into your native language. And let's not forget, it's a key step toward fluency. Language isn't just about words, it's about mindset. The more you immerse yourself in English, even in your thoughts, the closer you get to becoming fluent.
Absolutely. So whether you're preparing for a conversation, trying to improve your writing, or just aiming to feel more comfortable in English, training your brain to think in the language is a crucial skill. And the best part? Anyone can do it with the right strategies.
Speaking of strategies, in the next part of the podcast, we'll dive into practical techniques you can use to start thinking in English today. Stay tuned.
All right, let's move on to some common misconceptions about thinking in English. A lot of learners assume that thinking in English is something only advanced speakers can do. They think, I need a huge vocabulary or perfect grammar before I even try. But that's not true at all.
That's such a common belief, Tommy, and I hear it all the time. The truth is, anyone can start thinking in English no matter their level. Even if you only know a few basic words, you can practice forming simple thoughts in English. For example, instead of thinking, I am hungry in your native language, just say it in English. I'm hungry. It's really that simple.
Exactly. Another misconception is that you need to live in an English-speaking country to think in English. While immersion helps, you don't need to be surrounded by English speakers to train your brain. With the internet, you can create your own English environment. Watch videos, listen to podcasts, or even label things around your home in English.
Right. And some people think that if they make mistakes while thinking in English, it will ruin their learning. But mistakes are a natural part of the process. When you think in English, it's okay to be imperfect. The goal is to get used to forming thoughts, not to have perfect grammar or vocabulary right away.
Great point. Another myth I've heard is that thinking in English will somehow make you forget your native language. But that's not true either. Your brain is capable of managing multiple languages. In fact, learning to think in English can actually improve your overall language skills because you're training your mind to switch between languages more effectively.
And finally, some people feel that thinking in English is too hard or unnatural at first. At first, yes, it might feel a little strange, but it gets easier with practice. Just like any skill, the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. The key is to start small and be consistent.
Exactly, Lisa. So don't let these misconceptions hold you back. Thinking in English isn't about being perfect. It's about making progress. And in the next section, we'll share some practical techniques to help you get started. Stay with us.
All right, let's get into the most important part of today's episode, practical techniques to train your brain to think in English. If you're ready, grab a notebook because these tips are going to be super helpful.
Let's start with a simple one. Labeling objects around you. Take sticky notes, write the English name of everyday items like chair, desk, or mirror, and place them on those objects. Seeing these words every day will help you associate the English words directly with the objects, instead of translating from your native language.
That's a great tip, Tommy. Another method is narrating your daily activities in your mind. For example, when you wake up, think about your routine in English. Say things like, I'm brushing my teeth, I'm having breakfast, or I'm heading to work. This simple habit helps you get used to forming sentences in English.
I love that one, Lisa. Here's another. Have mini conversations with yourself. Pretend you're talking to a friend or explaining something. For example, if you see a tree outside, think, wow, that tree is tall. I wonder how old it is. These small dialogues can make a big difference over time.
Absolutely. And if you're struggling to find the right words, use flashcards or apps to build your vocabulary. Start with a few new words each day and practice using them in your thoughts. For instance, if you learn the word delicious, you can think, this coffee is delicious the next time you have coffee.
Another fun way to practice is journaling in English. At the end of the day, write a few sentences about what you did, how you felt, or something interesting that happened. This not only trains your brain to think in English, but also helps you improve your writing skills.
Great suggestion, Tommy. And don't forget about immersion. Watch movies, listen to podcasts, or read books in English. Try to think about what you're watching or listening to. For example, if you're watching a movie, think, what would I say in that situation? Or, what does that phrase mean?
One of my favorites is practicing with music. Listen to English songs, focus on the lyrics, and try to sing along. It's a fun way to learn new words and phrases while training your brain to process English naturally.
And here's a tip for advanced learners, shadowing. Listen to someone speaking English and repeat their words in real time, imitating their tone and pronunciation. It's a fantastic way to train your brain to think in English quickly and respond naturally.
These are all great techniques, Lisa. The key is to start small. Pick one or two methods and practice them daily. Over time, your brain will adapt, and thinking in English will feel more natural.
Exactly. And remember, consistency is the secret. The more you practice these techniques, the more progress you'll make. Now that we've shared some practical techniques, let's talk about the common challenges learners face when trying to think in English and how to overcome them.
One of the biggest challenges is feeling stuck when you can't find the right word. Lisa, I'm sure you've heard learners talk about this.
Absolutely, Tommy. It's frustrating, but it's completely normal. The best way to handle this is to stay calm and simplify. For example, if you can't think of the word delicious, just say, the food tastes good. The idea is to keep your thoughts flowing and not get hung up on one word.
Exactly. Another challenge is overthinking. Many learners feel they need to form perfect sentences, even in their heads. But here's the thing. Your thoughts don't need to be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes while thinking in English because no one is judging you.
That's so true, Tommy. And speaking of mistakes, a lot of learners feel discouraged when they realize they've used the wrong word or grammar in their thoughts. My advice? Turn it into a learning moment. If you realize later that you made a mistake, just correct it in your mind and move on.
Great point, Lisa. Another common issue is the fear of forgetting your native language. Many learners worry that focusing too much on English might make them lose touch with their first language, but rest assured, your native language isn't going anywhere. Thinking in English is just a way to strengthen your skills, not replace them.
And let's not forget about time. Some people feel they're too busy to practice thinking in English, but you can fit it into your daily life. For example, think in English while commuting, waiting in line, or even cooking. Use those small pockets of time to practice.
Another challenge is consistency. It's easy to start strong and then lose motivation. To overcome this, set small goals for yourself, like spending 5 minutes a day thinking in English. It's better to practice a little every day than to do a lot once in a while and then stop.
And don't forget to celebrate small wins. If you successfully think in English for a few minutes or learn a new word, give yourself credit. Progress is progress, no matter how small.
That's such an important reminder, Lisa. Overcoming these challenges is all about patience, persistence, and keeping a positive mindset.
Now let's wrap things up with some encouragement and real-life stories of people who trained their brains to think in English. These examples prove that it's possible for anyone to make this transition with time and dedication.
That's right, Lisa. Let me start with a story about a friend of mine. She's from Brazil, and when she first started learning English, she found it difficult to think in anything other than Portuguese. But instead of giving up, she made small changes, like writing her grocery list in English and talking to herself about her day in English before going to bed. In a few months, she noticed that English thoughts started popping up naturally.
Now that we've shared some practical techniques, let's talk about the common challenges learners face when trying to think in English and how to overcome them. That's amazing, Tommy. And it's such a great example of how small, consistent efforts pay off. I also know someone who worked in a factory in India. He wanted to improve his English to get a better job, so he started narrating his workday to himself in English. Things like, "I'm packing this box," or "I'm cleaning this area." Today, he's fluent in English and works as a manager in a multinational company.
Wow, that's inspiring. These stories show that you don't need to be in a classroom or have expensive resources to train your brain. All it takes is creativity and persistence. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are so many online communities and resources to support you.
Exactly. And let's not forget, it's okay if it feels hard at first. Every learner faces challenges. Even native speakers had to learn their languages as children. It's a process for everyone. The key is to celebrate the small wins and trust that you're making progress.
Right, Lisa. If you ever feel discouraged, remind yourself of why you're learning English. Maybe it's for better job opportunities, traveling, or making new friends. Your motivation will keep you going, even when it feels tough.
Absolutely. And to everyone listening, just know that you're not alone in this journey. If others can do it, so can you. Start small, be consistent, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Thinking in English is a skill, and like any skill, it gets better with practice.
That's so well said, Lisa. Keep believing in yourself, and soon thinking in English will feel as natural as thinking in your native language. And remember, we're here to support you every step of the way.
On that note, let's end today's podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you found this episode helpful and inspiring. Don't forget to share your progress with us in the comments or on social media. We'd love to hear your story.
Yes, and if you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover in the future, let us know. keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Until next time, keep practicing, stay positive, and think in English. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for watching. Please share with your friend and subscribe that channel.